Hello. How are you doing? This is Deb Acker here. First of all, I want to wish you guys all a very happy Thanksgiving. I'm so grateful you are here. I love Thanksgiving. It's such a great time of year. And I've been so fortunate because I actually have been staying at my family's house. I've been in Vegas. I was teaching a workshop last weekend, and then my family lives in Vegas, so just been hanging out with them for the last couple of weeks, doing work and stuff. But it's been like so great. I so love like when I was in the corporate world. So I was in the corporate world for over 20 years. When I was in the corporate world, it's like to be able to have that kind of time wasn't at all like realistic. And if I did, it was like my whole vacation. And so it is so nice to actually just be able to spend time and just be able to see them and hang out with them. And it's like, I've a lot of my experience has been very much uh, time, and time is like the most important thing to me with my loved ones. And so I just feel really, really grateful that I can have this time with my family, and that I'm really creating the life that I truly want, and just am recognizing the value of this time so that I don't, later on in my life go, oh my gosh, I wish I'd spent more time with my family, right? Or I wish I'd spent more time with my loved ones. So, in any case, happy Thanksgiving. I want to talk to you today. So, I don't know how many of you guys know my story, but I want to share a little bit of my story because actually it's related to why I woke up in the middle of the night last night. And also just so you guys know, like, who am I? Who is this girl that's whose community I'm part of? And so, I always, I talk about this in my workshops. So if you've been in my workshops, you've heard pieces of the story, right? But basically, before I was even 2 years old, my dad had left, right? He left, he was leaving my mom, he wasn't leaving me. And I always say, obviously his choice really had to do with my mom. It didn't have to do with me. But, in the moment when he was leaving, what I didn't realize until decades later is not only did he leave, but I left. I left me in that moment. And so that was kind of the root. I work with a lot of people around abandonment and helping clear abandonment because I'm here to tell you, like, if you struggled with that, where you've been left by a parent, and it can be abandonment in the traditional sense of like a parent leaving, a parent dying, divorce, addiction, and it can also be abandonment. I work with a lot of people who have parents who were worked a lot, right? And there is a way that also, even though it's not traditional abandonment, that also gets cemented in as abandonment because you're always trying to get their attention, right? You're like, oh my gosh, I would love, love, love to be able to get, really be loved by them, right? And be seen by them. So you're trying to get their attention. So for me, that was one start of it, right? And then, I spent my entire childhood kind of sort of trying to protect myself from being abandoned, and just notice, like, can you relate to that piece of it, right? Like for me, the protection was I became a people pleaser. I would say yes even when I meant no. I completely disconnected from myself and disconnected from my feelings because it wasn't safe for me to have a feeling, let alone share, a feeling that was different from anyone else's, let alone share that out loud. Because again, I could be left if I perceived I could be left if it was different. And so my entire childhood, I kept recreating, friendships leaving, and I kept recreating that pattern over and over. And I just had this huge fear of it too. And so when I was 17 years old, I ended up recreating that same pattern with my mom. So my mom was my primary support system growing up. She was my world. I loved and adored her. She was amazing. And when I was 17, she passed away from cancer. And for me, that was single-handedly the hardest moment in my life, right? And it was really hard going into college, not having her, and I was dating at that point and just not having her in my reality, having her in my world. But, what ended up happening, so this moment when I'm 2 years old and my dad left, I made up several conclusions in that moment, two of which were that love equaled leaving and that I would always be left. And so, of course, like I said, I had this huge fear I was going to lose my mom at some point in my childhood. I ended up recreating that, or creating that, I should say. And then I ended up taking this idea of love equals leaving and I will always be left. I ended up taking that into my adult dating reality. And we can all imagine that did not go well. So, I'm sharing this with you today. First of all, to let you guys know, like if you struggle with abandonment, if you've been trying to clear the pattern, if you have this pattern within you and you've struggled with it, us like who I came here to be is to help people clear their abandonment patterns. Like you do not have to live with that pattern, right? Like you can live where all people show up for you, right? And they're there for you. And you're not constantly wired of like, well, if I make this move, it's this more subconscious wiring, right? But like if I make this move, somebody will leave or somebody won't love me, or if I'm not perfect, somebody won't love me. So just want to let you know, I want to put that out there, and it's relevant to what happened last night. So I guess I haven't really openly, I feel like I talk about this a lot with my clients, but I don't know that I talk about it so much in this group, or I haven't as of yet, but I do want to start to really open the door. I want to start to open the door so you guys can get a sense, like, what does it take to live from your soul each and every day, right? What does it take to really have this life of true clarity and like be living from trust and from intuition every single day? Like, so I just want to give you a sense of the commitment that it takes and really what my life looks like on a daily basis, which again, me doing it regularly, I kind of take it for granted, right? Like, this is how you do life. This is what, this is how I do life, right? And truth be told, what I realize is that's probably not how most people are doing life. So I want to share with you so you guys can start to step in, and if you joined and if you want to say hi, I'd love to say hello. So in any case, basically, what I want to share with you is really all about how, so there's different pieces of this abandonment pattern, right? So one of the things that happened for me when I was a kid with my dad leaving and everything, I've cleared the root of the abandonment pattern, right? But like now I find myself, what I'm doing right now is working with relationships and friendships, right? And so the root is gone, right? But then, these awarenesses pop in, and I want to share with you the awareness that I had last night when I woke up in the middle of the night, right? So last night I had this dream. It's about a dream about a friend of mine. We've been I don't even know if we're going through rough times, because I don't know that she really is even, it sounds horrible. I don't know that she cares to even be in relationship with me. But for me, it's bothering me because I care so deeply about every single person that's in my life. I'm really, like, that's one of my big fundamental values is commitment. And I really just care so deeply just about anyone who is in my reality and in my life. And so last night I was having this dream. I don't really remember exactly what the dream was, but it was about her. And it was about just sort of like, I think I was like, part of it was my letdown, right? And it's so interesting. I'm talking about this right now, and I can definitely feel even just the emotion coming up around it, right? Because it's very sensitive. Because in my reality, like I said, I care so much about people, and I feel, I really want people to be, to be in my life. So in any case, what ended up happening last night is I woke up from this dream, and what I woke up with, so I was sitting with this idea. I was like, okay, my friend, I'm really upset about this. Why am I so upset about this? Like, what is going on? I had sent her a birthday message a little while ago, and she didn't respond or anything, it was a bit hurtful, right? And so I was like, okay, what is this paradigm that's playing out, right? What I help a lot of people with, right, is to go back and say, okay, where is this rooted? Like, what's going on, and what are the conclusions that you made in that moment that are now defining your everyday reality? And so what came up for me as I started to look at this for myself and see if this feels true to you, especially if you've gone through any sort of abandonment, or like I said, if you didn't have a parent around and you're just trying to prevent, you're just wanting people to stay in your life, right, and stay around. Many times what ends up happening is we end up in an effort to try to take control, we end up, first of all, we go into our masculine. And I talk about this a lot in my workshops, but basically, our masculine, you can be a feminine being and be a lot in your masculine. You can be a masculine being and be a lot in your feminine. So just noticing, what you feel applies to you, right? For me, I spent a lot of my life in the masculine of like trying to make things happen, doing, getting my value from doing, just pushing ahead and all of that, right? And a lot of my journey has been, okay, shifting into balance, right? So it's 50-50. It's more like, okay, when I want to be in my masculine, I'm in my masculine, and when I want to be in my feminine, I'm in my feminine. So for me, what I was noticing was this dynamic of this relationship, and what it was bringing up for me was that all of the times in my life where I thought I needed to be in my masculine for someone to stick around for me. And just see if that feels true, right? Like all the times in your life where you're like, okay, I feel like I need to have control to, so what I would do, so what that looked like in my friendships, right, is like I would always lead, right? I would never even give them the space to say, I want to spend time with you or let's hang out. It would be me just taking charge and me always leading, right? And so what I noticed in this relationship was that like the big awareness that I had was like, oh my God, like I've spent my entire life, I sort of was semi-aware of this, but it was like it came in like it just dropped in very powerfully. But it was just like, oh my God, all the times in my life where I've felt like if I relinquish control, right, and actually give somebody that time and that space to be my friend and just to show me they want to be my friend, that they wouldn't do it, right? They were going to leave me, right? And this friend in particular is interesting because I did give her the space. I said, okay, I'm not going to take all the initiative anymore. And there's been a couple friendships I noticed with that, right? So that I was like, all right, I'm stepping back. I communicated this is what I need, and giving them the opportunity to say this is how I show up or I don't show up. And so I did that in this situation, and just noticing like, oh my God, that fear of like, if I don't have control of something, if I like relinquish my control, that person's going to leave. They're not going to show up. Right. And like I said, in that moment, I was creating that in that moment. And what I realized, so I cleared it, right? I cleared it last night, and there might be more to it, but I cleared the next layer of it, right? Which is like, oh my God, I can actually relinquish control. And it feels very true in my body where I'm like, oh, I can relax into that, right? I can relax into that feeling of like, I do not need to have control or like hold on so tightly to make sure someone shows up for me or they don't show up for me, right? Because the reality of it is the people in our lives are going, the people that want to be there are going to make the effort. It's like if you can come at it from this perspective of like, I don't have to make all the effort, just notice where you're making all this effort in your life, right? And you're trying so hard, and recognizing like, okay, wait, I don't actually have to make so much, so much effort. I can trust that if they're meant to be there, they're going to stick around, even if I'm, even if that's not the case, right? And case in point, like years ago, I had a conversation. So this was the same dynamic in my relationship with one of my best friends. And I love her to death, and she's in this group actually, but I love her to death. And we've known each other since college, right? And finally, I think I communicated. I was like, I can't always be making an effort. It felt kind of almost like too, like where you're chasing, you're like trying to chase someone, right? And that can apply in relationship, it can apply in friendships, right? And so it's like, I felt at that time where I was like chasing her and just like trying to pin her down and like pin time down for us to talk. And again, those were the ways that I kept myself safe to try not to be abandoned, right? But of course, what it ends up creating is almost like a dodging energy. So we ended up talking, and then now our relationship dynamic is completely different. Like she's like totally makes effort, like there's like total shift, right? And so trusting, like it's like if they want to be there, they're gonna be there no matter what. And part of our journey is getting comfortable, right, in that open space, getting comfortable surrendering, getting comfortable just like, oh my God, I don't have to have control or hold on so tightly, to try to make things work out for me. And in fact, most of the time, like I said, my experience has been you end up creating the exact opposite, just like I did with this in this one dynamic. So that was really cool. Like, so I was, up last night, probably 2-3 o'clock in the morning. I'm not sure exactly what time it was, but, and like I was releasing and I was crying and I was like, oh my God, like this is like, cause the little girl that lives within me that's like, just sort of devastated. Like, this is how I've been doing life. This is how I've been doing reality. Oh my God, why do I have to hold on so tightly? And I peeled back a lot of layers of this before last night, but it was just like another layer. I was like, oh, cool. I'm not going to do reality that way. So just want to, like I said, I want to give you, this is the title, the name of this community is Living in Your Truth, right? And my journey is to just live a life of just like total integrity and help others do their version of that. But also, like I said, to clear these, like the pain, right? The pain of abandonment, to clear the patterns and pain, that we've gone through everywhere where we, let ourselves down, we've left ourselves, and everywhere where others have left us, but also, just like places where we're playing small, right? And we're not, owning our power, if you've been challenged with feeling obsessed or overanalyze, or you ruminate a lot, like that's something I've helped so many people clear, just because you don't have to live like that, right? You don't have to live where you're just like trying to manage the story that's inside of your head and it's circling over and over and over. So anyways, I just thank you so much for listening. Wishing you a really beautiful Thanksgiving. And yeah, if you have questions on this video or anything that comes up for you around this, I'd love if you could share. Again, the title of this, or the name of this community is Living in Your Truth. And I really want to start to shift this community into more of, I'll be teaching things, but I would love, us practicing vulnerability, right? And us practicing what it's like to share our truth, right? And what it's like to actually come forward and speak some of the things that maybe have plagued us, or some of the things that we think are going to take us down if we say them out loud, or say them, say them to a group. Like for you guys to see that actually this stuff is like, when you create space for this, like you go like this, right? You go higher and wider, not contracted, right? Which is the result of when we hold things in. So anyways, sending much love. Hope you're having a wonderful Thanksgiving if you're in the States, and if not, hope you're having a wonderful rest of your week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.